think intent data is incredible. I mean, I'm on the older edge of Gen X, or maybe the younger end of baby boomers. Well, I won't say any more about that. So one of my first jobs in marketing technology was actually helping direct mailers. And in those, you don't get as much direct mail as you used to get. You still get it. When it's not targeted, it's junk mail, right? When it's not of interest to you, it's junk mail. But when it's interesting to you, then it's useful, right? And I think of intent data as the same way. Like when we use intent data effectively, you're basically talking to people who are interested. And so any kind of marketing message, sales message, or information you share with them is actually useful. It's when you're spamming people with messages and content and stuff that they just aren't interested in or don't care about. That's when it's spam. That's when it's frustrating and gross. I think intent data is a really valuable thing to be exploring and using. A lot of the applications are, of course, in account-based marketing, because that's where you see lots of intent data, lots of activity, lots of traction, lots of momentum. But there are other ways to use intent data to find new markets, new segments, new opportunities, new products, new competitors coming up. I mean, it's really useful source of data. And I'd encourage, if people aren't sure about it or aren't working with it yet, do some experimenting and learn some of the stories and the case studies or the scenarios of what the use cases of what the applications could be, because I think it's a really useful thing. I know, Samantha, I mean, you probably have a lot of clients also exploring and using intent data.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with everything you said. And I think there's two other components of it that I see a lot. So one of those components is people are always trying to scale intent data. And that actually is its biggest downfall and fault. Because when you try and aggregate up to, I want to find, so a lot of times it's in the hands of the demand gen team and they're measured by volumes of activity. But intent data breaks down. If you try and make it too big, it doesn't work anymore. It actually needs to be specific.
Yes.
And so if I sell email security software, just knowing somebody's looking for security doesn't do anything for me, right? It doesn't give me any signal worth having. And so I think marketers need to really train the brain differently on intent data. For most products, there are some products that scale makes sense. So I think that's one thing. And then the second thing is, what do you now do with the information now that I have it? If all you're going to do is put them in my generic nurture stream to every contact in my database, we've lost the opportunity to use intent data in the way that makes sense. So those are just a couple things I would, recommend people think about. I'm a huge, huge fan of it. I think it can be incredibly valuable. And as Elissa said, not just from an individual account scoring standpoint, but also from a trending standpoint. Who are we most being compared to, right? What does that tell us that that's happening? Are we being compared to the right places? Maybe we're not. And then we have some brand work to do, right? To reestablish, right? Those kinds of things. So we can't just rely on what comes to our websites and what we interact with. So much of what people learn happens in other places. This is an unbelievably valuable way to tap into it.